That's good.
Sorry.
Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Julie from Mundo de Pepita, and Matthew is behind the camera, and we are thrilled to see you. Hola! Thank you so much for joining us today. As I said, we are Mundo de Pepita, resources for teaching Spanish to children. Thank you so much for joining. You can share out on Twitter by swiping, and hello from England. Wonderful. Welcome for joining. Thank you so much for joining and welcome. Hola. Thank you so much. So as I said, I am Julie from Mundo de Pepita. And today we're going to share with you 3 activities that I do with flags with novice learners. Hola, hola. Qué bueno verte. And these 3 activities are definitely geared, as I said, for novice learners. Most specifically, I do them with my elementary students, but they could be done, hola, with any age group. Hola, welcome, and thank you again for joining us. So the 3 activities that I'm going to share today are very simple and basic ones that we can do with flags. If you have caught us before on Periscope, welcome. You will know that one of my passions is integrating culture on a regular basis, on a daily basis in our lessons. And with novice learners, culture really frequently needs to be, thank you for sharing on Twitter, culture really needs to be concrete and tangible. Novice learners, especially, if we want to do it in the target language, and the 3 activities that I'm going to share with you today can all be done in the target language at the same time that you're sharing culture. Flags, of course, are very concrete, and I find that little students absolutely love them, and they're very fascinated by different types of flags, and so they're a wonderfully motivating activity as well to incorporate in your classes. So, hola Connie, ay, qué bueno verte, bienvenida. So the first activity that I'm going to share with you, it's one that you have done yourself, and I'm going to even touch give you a reminder of an earlier Periscope that we did around instructions. So the first one with young learners, hola, is to color the flag. This one comes from our Pepita Va a Peru activity pack. There are lots of printable flags out on the web. The way in which I do a flag coloring activity is that we do it together, meaning the whole class does each part one at a time. If you will remember, if indeed you saw one of our earlier Periscopes about instructions and keeping that in the target language, by going piece by piece, you can maintain the target language, and for those kiddos who have a hard time with multi-step instructions, you are giving them a support system at the same time. So if we were doing this flag from Peru, if we were coloring it, I would do each component of the flag, one component at a time. So I would have the entire class color this part, rojo. And then after they were done with that, I would do the same with the other side for the Peru flag. And then we would take the escudo, the, can never remember what that's called in English, this part in the middle, I'm sorry, piece by piece. Absolutely. Instructions going in the target language. Thank you for that comment. As you go one component at a time, that really helps you to stay in the target language as opposed to having to break into English. And as I said, for those little learners in particular for whom it's hard to follow multi-step instructions, this gives them an opportunity to do one part at a time. And so as I said, we would get to the middle, the shield, that's what it is in English, the shield in the center. We would go one part at a time, and I would tell them what color to color each as we were doing it. And you can see I have that all drawn out in the center, so they would do each part, and I would point to it. If you have a whiteboard that you can display it in a larger size, then you can point to that, or even if you have to do it this size. As I said, there are many flags online that are available for coloring. This one, as I said, comes from our Pepita Ba Peru activity pack, and we have one for Venezuela also. So that is one very simple activity. It reviews colors and at the same time gives your kids familiarity with flags from different countries. I often do themes that are country specific. So I might not do all of the flags, but during our theme on Peru, we would do this flag. And again, the same with my theme on Venezuela. And I do during September in 4th grade, we focus in on Mexico. You can get our activity packs on our, thank you Joshua, on our TPT shop online, Mundo de Pepita, and we have both of those available under the culture custom category. Thank you for asking and reminding me to say that. So this is one very simple activity to do with little learners or novice learners, again, to color the flag, but going step by step. And it's a great integration of culture in the target language. I really believe strongly that part of culture is knowing about the countries where the language is spoken. So knowing flags, knowing geography, capitals, those types of facts are also part of that larger cultural definition. So this is activity 1 to do with flags, a very simple activity. I'm going to hang that back up and show you a second one. Another easy activity that is great either as whole class or as a fast finisher activity or to do in stations, you could have this as a station, is memory. So where your students would be matching the flag with the country that it's from. So in this instance, Chile and Chile. Or another one, here we have Bolivia and Bolivia. Fast finisher activities are really great. You know you have those kiddos who finish early and then will say to you, what can I do? So having memory cards in a pack together, we actually have these available in our shop also, our flag activity pack. These are simple. Once kids are familiar with flags, they can then go and set them up with a partner or with a small group or even on their own and set the cards out face down. Of course, they should mix them up first, or you can have it set up at a station where they can then play memory. As you may know, memory is where you are looking to make a match by flipping 2 cards over and seeing if they are a match. So this is a fun way for kids. Games are a really great way for kids to use the target language. You can provide them with some simple phrases to go along with playing a game, like it's your turn, oh no, it's my turn, or go, and have those on a card next to the game so that they can reference those for your older learners who can read. And they can go off and do this activity independently. Yes, that's a great way to use flags too, and the country names. Matching the country with the flag is it's a great suggestion when you're making pairs quickly to put those two together. And especially as we know, those of us Spanish teachers know that there are a number of flags that look very similar. For example, Colombia, Venezuela, y Ecuador. They can be challenging for kids to learn, and so this is a great way for them to practice that. And again, as I said, simple activity for kids to do that's culturally part of their learning. I'm going to give you one last one. This is just a quick Periscope today, but this is a fun activity that I do with my first graders in January of every year. Absolutely the same issue. Certain languages have so many countries, so there are lots of different flags, and when those flags look similar, it's a trick and a challenge for our kids to figure out which is which. Another being, of course, Puerto Rico and Cuba with Spanish. So kids really get into learning those flags and figuring them out, especially the ones that look similar. My 3rd and 4th graders in particular are really flag oriented. They get very excited about it. And so this is a fun activity for them to do, as I said, when they're finished. Or sometimes I might have multiple sets out, and in small groups, they'd play the game together. As I said, I'm going to share with you one last activity. Thank you. That I do with 1st graders, and it could be done with any age level. It's a really simple listening comprehension activity. In 1st grade in January, as I was saying, I start a theme on South America geography. So this could be with any map or any group of countries. It just so happens the example I'm going to show you is South America, because that is one that I do in 1st grade. And they learn and practice the map, the Spanish-speaking countries in South America. And again, this is an activity that we do all in the target language. And with the flags, I have this big map that I made many years ago and laminated it. And there are a lot of things that I can stick onto it. I put Velcro pieces on it so that I can stick a number of different things on the map, such as pictures of animals or pictures of features, either buildings or locations that are really iconic to that particular country, like Machu Picchu for Peru, and so on, Salto Ángel for Venezuela, etc. So after my kids have learned the country names and they know where they are in the map, we've practiced that, then I would do another listening activity where I'm just trying to have them really gain that listening comprehension and familiarity with the names of the countries. And I have, thank you for all those hearts, I really appreciate it. So the same flags that are part of our matching activity pack, I put Velcro on the back of just the flags. And I would call a kid up from the circle and I would give them a flag and say, okay, now stick this on whichever country it belongs on. So in this example, they would stick it on Venezuela, right? So there it would go right on the map and it sticks there. And then I would call another kid up and have them stick this one, for example, this goes for Colombia, and so on. Once the kids are familiar, maybe we've practiced this a couple of times so that multiple kids can get turns, I might take them off, and then I would do the flip. Instead of me doing it as a listening comprehension, telling them where it goes, I might say to them, okay, which country does this flag belong to? So now we're gaining, it is challenging for kids, but again, kids really love flags, and the more we practice with it, the more they learn them, and they love this challenge with flags. Over the years, I've found that kids really are engaged and motivated by flags. So why not bring those into class? They have lots of potential. And so at the second part of this activity, as I said, would be then I would give them the flag and say, okay, which country does this flag belong to? And for my younger learners, I might give them a choice. So I might say, does this flag belong to Venezuela or Bolivia? Or does this flag belong to Chile or Colombia? So that I'm giving them the answer in the question. It's kind of that intermediate step in terms of not being too challenging, but still getting them to really get that concept of, oh yeah, I need to think a little bit. And then you could go that third step to ask them, okay, now what country is this from, and have them supply the answer. Very TPRs, most definitely. I really try to bring in a lot of listening comprehension activities and activities where they are manipulating things in my room. We know that input is so important, and sometimes we move almost a little too quickly. I know I'm very guilty of this, moving too quickly into output activities rather than spending that sufficient time on input activities, those comprehension activities. And so this is a great one where we're using the target language for the entire activity. They are practicing with the map and with the cultural component of the flags, and at the same time they're having fun, they're engaged, and everyone is participating. As I said, I made this map many years ago. You can make one yourself, or if you have one that you can laminate, you can do the same thing. The flags in this particular activity pack are in color. They're not for coloring in. Some of the flags, the bigger flags that I showed you for coloring in the Peru pack and in the Venezuela pack are black and white for coloring specifically. Thank you for asking that. So those are our 3 activities to do with flags today that will allow you to stay in the target language and are fun and motivating for kids. We thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that we'll see you next Sunday. Don't forget to go to our blog, elmundodepepita.blogspot.com. We have lots of activities there, and you can sign up for our email newsletter, which will be going out in the next couple of weeks. Thank you again, and have a wonderful afternoon. Muchas gracias. Feliz día. Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Adiós.